Business arising from the minutes. Resolution, guaranteed basic income. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I certainly thank my colleagues and the public's patience in having this issue deferred a few weeks in an attempt to certainly clarify some of the language around the resolution. So I will read the resolution. Whereas the growing social crisis and impacts of poverty have downstream effects on our municipality, putting unsustainable pressure on our limited resources to deliver necessary public services and social supports as we struggle to keep up with downloaded responsibilities. Whereas basic income addresses key social determinants of health, such as income and housing, and it can alleviate pressures on municipalities to address poverty and fill gaps in social supports such as shelter, housing, food security, and mental health. Research and pilots show that when people have a sufficient and secure income, their mental and physical health improves. They have the capacity to secure more affordable, suitable, and safe housing, childcare, healthy food, and transportation, and poverty rates decrease. And whereas the provision of a guaranteed livable basic income would benefit individuals, families, and communities and protect the most vulnerable in society, it would also support community resilience by facilitating the transition to a local economy that responds to the climate crisis and other major challenges. Evidence shows that a federally funded basic income that improves people's financial stability is possible, as successful income transfer programs already exist in Canada for seniors, old age security, and the guaranteed income supplement, and for parents with the Canada Child Benefit. And whereas a private member's motion was tabled in the House of Assembly on November 3rd, 2021, and unanimously adopted, urging the government to establish an all-party committee on basic income with a mandate to review and make recommendations on eligibility and minimum income amounts, interaction with existing income supports, additional poverty reduction initiatives, cost-benefit analysis, potential models for such a program and a timeline for implementation, and further resolving to urge the government to ensure that a committee has the resources it needs to conduct its work and engage federal members of parliament from Newfoundland and Labrador to participate. So therefore, be it resolved that the City of St. John's write a letter to the Prime Minister, Newfoundland and Labrador members of parliament, Newfoundland and Labrador senators, and the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, calling on these orders of government to work towards the creation of a guaranteed livable basic income to eradicate poverty and homelessness and ensure everyone has sufficient income to meet their basic needs. And I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Ravencroft. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so I just wanted to state again, you know, this was tabled a few weeks ago, and certainly Council had asked for some time, obviously, to research the issue further, and certainly it was deferred a couple of weeks, and also some of the language in it. And because, of course, we know that in the municipality, this is not our jurisdiction to dictate a basic income. However, we do feel the effects of poverty, and we have seen a growing need for an equitable way to ensure that people do rise out of poverty. So this resolution is an attempt to, for City Council, as with many other municipalities across the country that we have seen as of late. We've seen Halifax, Victoria, and just very recently Moncton and many others in the queue as well who have supported asking their provincial leaders and the federal leaders to look at ways that basic income could be potentially implemented down the road. And of course, because we know that these things get downloaded onto municipalities. So I'll just leave it for there. Obviously, we'll have some discussion with our colleagues, and I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Councillor Cora.
Sorry, thank you, Worship. Yeah, I'm proposing a friendly amendment just to clarify the language even further. Basically, everything that I sent already, Christine, I already sent it along to you if you're able to put it up. Everything whereas are through theirs, I'm comfortable with and fine. Of the limited time I've had to do the research, I'm comfortable with that. Basically, everything after therefore. So what my amendment would be here, I'll read it out if you can get it up there, would be, therefore it be resolved that the City of St. John's write a letter to the Prime Minister of Canada, Newfoundland and Labrador Parliament, Newfoundland and Labrador Senators, and the Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, confirming Council's support for the concept of guaranteed livable basic income. Furthermore, we call upon the province to establish the all-party committee, as approved in November 2021, to thoroughly review the concept of guaranteed livable basic income. So that's up there on the screen, and I'll just give a quick reasoning for it. I am uncomfortable directing provincial and federal governments, by using things like, calling on these orders of government to work towards the creation of a basic, guaranteed livable basic income. To me, this is something that's technically outside the purview of City Council. Certainly, we're more in my opinion, we're more connected to the residents, being that we're more accessible and, we're a lot of times their first call. I personally don't feel, I have enough info to direct to higher levels of government here. This was brought to Council about 2 weeks ago. In my opinion, it's insufficient time to get fully up to speed on such a large piece of provincial and federal legislation. I think Halifax and Moncton might have had weeks or even months to go through something like this. So, I'll be honest as a city councillor, my job mainly is, keep taxes down, clean water in, dirty water out, public works, snow clearing, sidewalk clearing, streets. So, I don't have enough info or knowledge to, again, direct to higher levels of government. So, I'll continue to learn more about this. Poverty reduction, the housing crisis is certainly very important to me. So, for me, I figure, confirming council support for this concept and calling upon the province to establish that all-party committee, which they, as I said, they've approved in November 2021, is the route we should be taking here at City Council. Thank you.
Okay, so because we have an amendment being proposed, we need a seconder for the amendment. Councillor Burton?
Thanks.
So we're speaking to the amendment now.
Yeah. So I support this, writing this letter, and I do think that Councillor Crabb's friendly amendment has merit because when Council calls upon other levels of government to implement something, or I like the language of working towards was better than implement for sure. But when we're telling the province and the federal government to implement something, it is usually something that's within our jurisdiction. Like we are the experts on, for example, public transportation, or we have a lot of knowledge in affordable housing and in other areas of poverty reduction that we currently undertake. So with finding a way to get around the city in an affordable manner and to have public housing that's available for people to live in. Those are areas where I would be totally comfortable telling the federal or provincial governments to implement something. But on guaranteed livable basic income, which is such an important concept, I feel like our role is best played as a supportive one. And I think that that is what the folks who are advocating for this across the country, to every municipality, the goal is to have municipal governments support the work towards a guaranteed livable basic income. So I'm fine with this, confirming our support for the concept and get our names on the record as hopeful, I guess, politicians at a lower level of government to see the guaranteed livable basic income play out. I mean, as a child who grew up in 90s in rural Newfoundland in poverty, I definitely think that a livable, predictable income stream that you're not scrounging around for cash to buy groceries every 2 weeks is really, really, really important for all people of the province. So I definitely support a livable income, and want to see this all-party committee get to work as soon as possible. Thanks.
Any comment, Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. And I appreciate my colleagues' input. Obviously, this is something that I certainly am very interested in making sure that we get good support from our council colleagues on, because this is something that impacts all of our residents, whether directly or indirectly. There are many issues that we do not have the ability, we do not have the responsibility to oversee, but that gravely impact our residents in our communities, and poverty reduction is certainly one of them, and affordable living. I would be amenable to support the friendly amendment. However, the only thing that I don't see here is an actual call to directly to the federal government as well, because we do know that it is a a partnership between the province as well as the federal government. So I'm just wondering if we could potentially just clarify that just slightly to include a dialogue with the federal government as well. I don't want to put it all on the provincial docket because, of course, we do know that it's two of these levels of government. And as we've seen before, FCM certainly have been very supportive of moving in that direction as well. So I would just, if I could just, on that friendly amendment, just ensure that the federal government is also noted there as well as the province as well.
I just inserted the federal government in there along with, if you want to read that friendly amendment.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's the province that has made that has unanimously.
Yeah, I think
Approved.
the motion, the original amendment said that the City of St. John's write a letter to the Prime Minister of Canada, federal government, Newfoundland, Labrador, members of Parliament, etc., confirming Council's support for the concept of a guaranteed livable basic
okay.
income,
Well,
period. So
yeah.
that's done.
That does
The
clarify.
next one is specific to the province
Yep.
to ask them to establish the all-party committee
Yep.
that they had intended to establish.
Just wanted to make sure it was crystal
Yeah.
clear. And yes,
By the way, these aren't friendly amendments. These are amendments that we're going to be voting on. Friendly
Okay.
amendment is one that's just agreeable to
Right.
make the amendment.
right. So an amendment.
Yeah. It is friendly, but not a.
I just said friendly so people would like it. I've never made an amendment to anything, so.
A likable amendment. So yeah, you can just take that part out, City Clerk. Any further comments? Councillor Ravencroft.
Thank you. Yeah, the incredibly likable amendment. A real charm to it. So I've never doubted your friendliness either,
Charming
Councillor. I'm going to vote against the amendment. I actually like the original better. I think it's got more teeth. And I think that that's something that's quite significant. Speaking only to this amendment right now, I'll have more to say about the original resolution afterwards, but I think I'd be doing wrong by my constituents, many of whom have expressed their incredibly strong support for this issue, if we weren't explicitly calling on the government to do this. And as much as I hear the arguments for limiting our actions in specific ways here, I still think that the original has more merit. So I'll vote against it, but if this is what goes forward, to be honest, it's not the worst thing.
Any further comments? Councillor Han.
I'll be supporting the friendly amendment, and I agree with our position on it. And, you know, Your Worship, I know what it was like. I was a single mother of children, 3 children, and my first job was at CNIB, and I think it was $3.05 an hour I made. And I had to take another job just so I can get myself off social assistance. So I do believe it's time that the federal government and the provincial government stepped up. That was 30-odd years ago, and we're still, even though it's a little higher today, it's still pathetic. And people are living in very bad conditions. So I certainly support this motion, and I look forward to our government stepping up to the plate because it's on their shoulders. Sure, we can bring it forward, but they're the ones that can get it done. Thank you, Your Worship.
Any further comments? I'll support the amendment. You know, when you're dealing with poverty elimination or poverty reduction, I just want to make sure that whatever the levels of government that are involved in it do the proper analysis to make sure that it works the way that it's supposed to work. And I wouldn't want to see them put in place something that didn't achieve the targets that we set out to achieve, and make it sustainable as well for everybody to help them. So I think further study and doing that work as proposed by the province is a good step. And they should undertake that work immediately. Any further comment? So we're voting on the amendment. Call the question on the amendment. I got lots. Motion's carried 9-1. So now we on the floor. We have the amended motion. Any comments? You'll close debate if you speak now, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Ravencroft.
Thank you. Yeah, just again, I was a strong supporter of this motion of this resolution when it came before us the first time. And I was the one who moved the deferral a couple of weeks back because I was hoping that, most of us around this table would have an opportunity to look through the extensive literature and reporting that's been done on this issue over the last little while. We've received an extensive amount of contact, in fact, from members of the public, many of whom are very knowledgeable on issues of GBI, UBI. And I really want to thank them for their information. It's been very helpful, I hope, in making some decisions here. I'm a strong supporter of this concept, and a large portion of that, frankly, is based on feedback from my constituents. And that's the one thing that I know all of us have been hearing. As city housing lead, I know the serious issues that many have been facing in finding safe and affordable places to live in the last few years. As a taxi rider, I know the massive impact that things like the cost of gas or the cost of insurance have had on drivers. As a person who likes to eat food, as we all do, I know how serious the skyrocketing cost of food is. And as a person who, is only in a place now where I have a passable economic situation for the first time really in my life, I know how serious issues like wage stagnation are as well. We've just seen a 50-cent increase to minimum wage in this province. That isn't even close to enough. It probably needs to be more like $5 to get it to a level that would be tolerable. $5 an hour, I think, would be significant. But I think that something like a GBI or a UBI at this point, regardless of any other issues that we might be able to bring forward, is something that it does the thing that I think we as councillors are meant to do, which is that it's meant to respond to our constituents' needs as fast as possible and as equitably as possible. So as much as this may not be us putting the policy in place, I think that supporting other levels of government in doing so is absolutely the right idea. And that's why I'm a strong supporter of this one.
Any further comments? Deputy Mayor, do you want to close debate?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to my colleagues for really taking the time to have a look at this. I know it's a large issue and it is still a developing issue, but I think really, as we see a growing disparity, certainly for people who are living in poverty and the cost of living, we as colleagues here, we hear from our constituents on a regular basis. We see it and we feel the impacts with very little control to be able to deal with it. We have, very specific things. But as we've seen in many other instances, being strong advocates at the municipal level to both the provincial level and the federal level can manifest in action. And we've seen that with the cosmetic pesticide ban. We've seen that with the plastic bag ban in terms of environmental issues. They're not in our control, but you know what? We had a voice and we made those things happen. So it is a tool, it's an opportunity to continue the dialogue on behalf of our residents, and I'm very pleased to support the amended version of this, to throw our hat in the ring as many of our municipal colleagues are across the country. Thank you.
Call the question. Motion's carried unanimously.